Rainy days don't seem so wet. Stormy night.
Today we're going to be talking about the dresses and jumpsuits that I would not sew again. If you're new here, my name is Sarah, and I make videos about sewing and my personal style journey. This is the second video in this series. I did another one on tops, which I will link down in the description box below. But before we get started, I just want to address that on that first video, I got some, let's just say, colorful comments that I wanted to talk about. And so I just want to say that sewing and personal style, both of those things are a journey, and it's not something that you're going to be good at right away. You're going to make mistakes along the way, or at least I have. And that's the whole reason why I wanted to do this series, was to illustrate some ways where I went wrong and the things that I learned from it. And I will say that because it is a journey through life, it's not static. We do change and grow. That the garments that I've made that work for me right now may not work for me 2 years from now. And so I can't promise that I'm never going to make mistakes again. I just think that that's part of the learning process. And if you're looking for perfection, maybe you should look elsewhere. Because I always try to be open and honest about the things that I make, and they're not always going to be 100% positive experiences. So if you would like to go through these patterns with me, and I'll share with you all the things that went wrong and why I wouldn't sew those patterns again, then you're in the right place. And let's just get started by talking about knits. So the first pattern that I would not sew again is the Itch to Stitch Varzim overalls. I made this one time out of a blue Ponte fabric, and I loved the color of it, but this pattern didn't really work for me because I think the style just wasn't quite right for me. I have some woven overalls that I've made that I really love, and I wear them all the time as loungewear, but with that knit jumpsuit, I always felt a little bit frumpy, and I'm not really sure why. But I do think maybe it had something to do with the fact that it was a knit fabric. It kind of had this drawstring cinch in the middle, and so maybe there was a little bit of bagginess over the stomach. And it had kind of a jogger style pant leg, which is just not my favorite silhouette on me. So I never really felt comfortable wearing those overalls, even though I did only wear them around the house. I just never wanted to reach for them. I preferred to reach for other things instead. So I did end up getting rid of those, and I don't think that I would revisit that pattern. There's nothing wrong with it, and it was fun to make, but the style just wasn't right for me. Next, we have the Named Clothing Ruska Knot Dress. This was a pattern in one of their books that I had purchased. There were a lot of things that went wrong with this dress. I made it one time and I really did not like that dress. I barely wore it at all, and I ended up donating it because I just didn't like it. The first mistake that I made was with the fabric. I think when I bought the fabric online, it looked really pretty on my screen, but when I saw it in person, it just wasn't me. I'm really picky about my florals, and in my opinion, on my body, that floral just looked a little bit too matronly to me. So I didn't really like the fabric, but I also didn't want to waste it, so I made it into a dress that I ended up not liking. The second thing that went wrong with that pattern was this was before I was doing mock-ups to make sure that everything fit me properly, and named clothing drafts for a very tall person. And so the proportions on their patterns are all wrong for me. And I didn't bother to make adjustments, and so like the waist is in the wrong place and the whole thing is a little bit too long. And I'm sure that that contributed to my not liking the dress, the fact that it didn't fit my proportions correctly. The third thing about that dress that I did not like was actually what I would consider a design flaw, or maybe not a flaw, but just a design element that I didn't like. The thing that I liked about the dress is that it had that tie knot detail in the front. I didn't notice when I was looking at the pattern photos that it's impossible to get that knot really tight. It's meant to sit kind of loose on your body. I thought it was going to cinch in the waist, and because of the way that that overlay is sewn, it's pretty much impossible to do that. So I always felt like there was a lot of extra fabric going on in the stomach area, and it didn't cinch it in tight. It just looked kind of baggy and shapeless, and it just was not right for me. And I have other dress patterns that have a similar sort of tie waist detail that you can actually cinch in the waist. So if I wanted that look, I would just use one of those other patterns instead of trying to mess with this one. So those are all the reasons why that dress did not work out for me. I think I might have worn it like 2 or 3 times before I got rid of it. Definitely when I look back, it was such a long list of mistakes, some of which I could have corrected and some of which maybe I couldn't. And all in all, I did not like that dress at all, and I was happy to leave it behind to history. The third dress pattern that I would not sew again is Simplicity 8982. Now, I did actually like this dress at the time, and there's nothing wrong with the pattern. I think I've used the pattern a few different times, but one of the main issues with this particular dress that I had made was that the sizing was too big. This was one of the first garments that I sewed when I came back to making garments in 2020, and I hadn't quite figured out my correct Big 4 size yet, and so I remember I had cut out a size that corresponded to my body measurements, which we all know if you're familiar with the Big 4, that means it's gonna be way too big. And I just felt like the dress was too oversized, it didn't fit me in the shoulders. And I tried out a style element that I thought would be really interesting, but I just didn't like it on me. And that is having the super long cuff with the gathered sleeve into the cuff. That particular sleeve style doesn't really work on me in my opinion because my arms are so short. It kind of just emphasizes how short my arms are. So I did keep that dress for a while and it was very comfortable to wear. I basically wore it as loungewear, but I no longer have that dress in my closet and I wouldn't sew that pattern again because I have other patterns that are very similar in style, just kind of your basic t-shirt dress that fit me so much better and that work so much better for me. So I haven't felt the need to go back and use that pattern again. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think that if you fit it to yourself properly and the style works for you, it is a nice pattern. So the vast majority of this video is going to be talking about wovens. But before we get there, if you're enjoying this and you feel like you get some value out of my content, I would appreciate it so much if you would hit the like button and please consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much for your support. Alright, the jumpsuit that I would not sew again is McCall's 7330. This pattern was a total disaster for me fit-wise, and I used a Rifle Paper Company quilting cotton that I am very, very sad that I wasted. I did a whole video on it, so I won't go into all the details, but it was just a total fail. I couldn't wear it. And it was definitely a precious lesson that I need to do a muslin first, especially on a jumpsuit, because there's so many different fit elements that you need to work together in order to get it to fit you properly. And I do feel like I did learn that lesson because in my other video where I talked about the jumpsuits that I would repeat, there was a vintage jumpsuit that I remember it took me an entire day to make all of the adjustments that I needed to make before I actually cut out my fabric. But I'm so glad that I did that because the results speak for themselves. I really love the way that it turned out versus this pattern, which I didn't do those things and it just didn't work for me. I've never tried another jumpsuit in this coveralls style, but I really want to, but I feel like that experience scarred me so much that I've been a little bit afraid of tackling it again, but I think someday I should definitely try because I do really like the idea of that kind of jumpsuit and I think that it could work in my wardrobe. This one just wasn't the right pattern. For dresses, we have the Deer and Doe Release pattern. I held on to this dress for a long time. It was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. I think that it even looked nice on me, but it just wasn't my style. It kind of reminded me of that twee era of like 2015 when we were wearing the fit and flare dresses and we had the bow tie at the neck. And although I think that it's a really cute look on somebody else, it just isn't my style. And I kept trying and trying to make that dress work for me, and I just never liked it. I liked the fabric, I thought it was really pretty, I thought the dress was nice, but I didn't feel comfortable wearing it. I had also done some shirring at the waistline. There's two different options. You can do elastic or you can do shirring. And I always felt like that shirring elastic was a little bit itchy on my skin around the midsection and it wasn't very comfortable. So eventually I finally said goodbye to that dress, even though I was a little bit sad about it because there was nothing wrong with it. But it was just a little bit too feminine, a little bit too cutesy. It just wasn't my style. Next we have the Fiber Mood Julia. Now this one is an interesting one because I did not like the dress. I think that the silhouette was maybe just a little bit too plain for me. Basically, it was kind of a boxy top, cinched in at the waist with some elastic, and then just kind of a long flowy skirt. And even though I absolutely loved the fabric that I used, I did not like myself in that dress. I never wanted to wear it. So I ended up cutting it apart and making it into a cropped top and a skirt. And I like that combination so much better, and I actually do wear those pieces. Now, I will be honest and say that I'm not as crazy about the skirt, and I've thought about getting rid of it a few times, but I haven't done it yet. But I do really like the top. I wear the top quite frequently, and I do like the way that the top and the skirt look together. I don't know why, but I just think that it makes a better combination than it did as a singular dress. So I'm happy that I cut it into separates and was able to salvage it. But that dress pattern, I just didn't like the way that it looked on me, and I definitely would not sew it again. Next, we have the Friday Pattern Company Saltwater Slip. Now this one's interesting because the version that I made is a basic black dress and I wear it all the time. I wear it year round, I wear it layered or on its own, but I wouldn't make the pattern again because I don't quite like the style. It's another one of those that it looks fine, but if I had it to do over again, making a basic black slip dress, I would have used a different pattern. I think the thing that I don't like about the saltwater slip is the neckline. That sort of low, wide scoop neckline with the thin straps. I just feel like it doesn't do anything for me. And there's just other necklines that I prefer, like a higher slash neck, or maybe a square neck, or even a V-neck. I'm not always crazy about V-necks, but I do think that a V-neck would look better on me than this particular rounded scoop neck. So that's the main reason why I wouldn't sew that pattern again, even though I do wear my black dress all the time and I will continue to wear it until it wears out because it's very practical. But I think that that particular neckline just isn't the right one for me, so I wouldn't repeat this one again. Next up, we have McCall's 7831, and I've made two versions of this, and I still have one in my closet. The first one that I made was out of a red denim that was very low quality, and so it just didn't last very long. I think that it faded and got thin in places, so I did get rid of that one, but I do still have the dark denim version that I made, and I do continue to plan to wear it. In this case, I feel like this is maybe just an evolution of my style. I feel like the dress is fine and I'm gonna wear it because I have it in my closet. I do tend to reach for it more in the winter with layering it up, even though I know that I could wear a t-shirt or a tank top underneath when the weather's warmer. I tend not to. I don't know why, I just tend to wear it more in the winter. At any rate, this style of overalls dress, like the pinafore dress, there's nothing wrong with it, but I just feel like my style has evolved beyond it now. I feel like as a woman in my mid-40s, when I wear that dress, I do feel a little bit juvenile, I guess, and like there's nothing wrong with that, and it doesn't stop me from wearing it. But just the direction that I see my style evolving, it doesn't really include pieces like that. So I'm gonna keep the dress that I made because I think that it's well made and it does work for me. But I don't feel the need to make any more versions of it because I just think that my personal style is trending away from that type of dress. Next we have McCall's 7974. This is another one like the Reglisse dress where I just feel like the style wasn't me. I think that it's a beautiful dress and I've seen so many different versions of this or this type of dress made up on others that look really, really nice. But on me, I just didn't feel comfortable in it. And eventually I did gain some weight around the midsection, and so the waist part was feeling a little bit tight, and rather than going back in and unpicking it and letting out the seams and having to fix it, I just didn't like the dress enough to do that. And I do have several other white dresses in my closet because I do like white dresses. So I decided to just let that one go because it wasn't really my style. And I wouldn't sew that pattern again, and I wouldn't sew another similar style. It's just not the right look for me. The next dress is McCall's 8035. I actually made two versions of this dress. The first one I didn't like because it was out of a cotton linen blend that was very heavy. I mean, I guess you could say it's a medium weight, but for the style of dress, I felt like it was too heavy, and every time I wore it, I felt like I was being weighed down by the dress. It was also another pattern that I sewed right when I was getting back into sewing, and so the sizing was too big on the shoulders, so it didn't fit quite right. And I never felt comfortable wearing that dress because it was just too heavy, so that one I got rid of a long time ago. The second version that I made was out of a really pretty Lady McElroy fabric, but I never felt comfortable in that dress either. I had made the version with tulip sleeves and I hated the way that that looked on me, so I ended up removing the sleeves and having a sleeveless dress, but even that, I just didn't feel right wearing it. So eventually I got rid of that dress too, and instead I just made a simple top out of that fabric that I had from the leftovers, so I'm able to still enjoy that fabric in my closet without feeling the burden of having this dress that I don't really like. And now that I've discovered the Style Arc Hope dress, which is a very similar look, but I just like it way better. If I wanted a similar like pull-on wrap dress, I would just make the Hope dress again. I wouldn't go back to this pattern. Now I think we're getting on to the series of failed birthday dresses. The next one that I have to share is the New Look 6692. I made this as a birthday dress quite a few years ago out of some Liberty lawn, and I absolutely love my dress. I'm definitely keeping my dress. I don't want to get rid of it, but it was one of those one-offs in my closet where I don't need another version. I would say that the style of this dress is just on the edge of being a little bit girly for me. I do like it and I wear it, and it's sort of a change of pace. Like if I want to wear something a little bit different than I normally reach for, then I will wear that dress very happily, but it's not the kind of style where I want to just churn out dozens of them. I just feel like one is plenty and I don't need any more than that. The next pattern is one from the archives. It's the Seamwork Laurel dress. I made this more than 10 years ago. It was a very, very long time ago, and I was really proud of the construction of this dress because I used a border print and I took the time to match the pockets so that they blended in with the pattern of the dress. It was a lot of work for me technically, and so I was really proud of the make, but the actual style of the dress was not right for me because it was a basic shift dress. I don't like basic shift dresses on me. I feel like they're very boxy and they just make me look really rectangular. I need waist definition to give my body a little bit more shape. So I never felt comfortable wearing that dress. I'm sure that at this point it wouldn't fit me anymore, even if I still had it, but I got rid of it years ago. And I think I knew at the time too that I wasn't gonna like the style of the dress. I think that I picked it because it was a good match for a border print, because the shift is kind of simple. There's not a lot of seams getting in the way of the border. So it was practical in that sense, but it wasn't practical style-wise for me because it was not the type of dress that I like to wear. The next dress that I would not sew again is an out of print pattern. It's Simplicity 2246. Now there's a very specific reason why I wouldn't sew this pattern again, which I will get to in a second, but just to let you know, the dress that I made was out of a rayon fabric and I ended up having to cut it into a top because it shrunk in the wash and became too short on me. That's not the reason why I wouldn't sew the pattern again, but that is what happened. I do still have the top in my wardrobe and I do wear it, but the real reason why I would not revisit this pattern is because of the collar situation. So this dress is supposed to be a shirt dress for beginners. And so to make it easier, they drafted the collar and the collar stand as just one piece. So you don't have to sew them together. You just simply sew the combined collar and collar stand onto the neckline. Well, I don't like that because there's not structure in the collar stand and I used a lyocell fabric. So it's really floppy, even with interfacing, and it doesn't want to stand up the way that a shirt collar should. And it just really bothers me. It annoys me so much. And I have the skills that I can do a collar and collar stand. Like that's not a difficult thing for me. So there's no reason why I need that shortcut. And I have so many shirt and shirt dress patterns in my collection that I don't need to go back to this one. So if I wanted to make a similar looking shirt dress, I'm sure that I could achieve it by using one of my other patterns. So that's why I would not revisit this pattern again. And to me, it's a little lesson on how simpler isn't always better. Next is another out of print pattern. It's Simplicity 8641. Dear Lord, I hated this dress. I remember I didn't have it in my wardrobe for very long because it was just way too fussy for me. I liked the way that it looked. I liked that it was a little bit of a different take on a pinafore dress. It wasn't quite as traditional as the overalls dress that we talked about earlier. But the thing that I hated about it was that it had these crisscross straps in the back and then it had like a drawstring that you had to cinch in and tie. And I just found that to be way too fussy and annoying, both to get in and out of it and just wearing it. I felt like it was really bulky in the back, and so when I'd sit back in my chair, I would feel like this knot back there. It wasn't comfortable. I also didn't really like the look of the cinching in the back. I felt like it sort of gives you that diaper butt look, even though this was a dress and not like overalls. I just did not find it very practical for me in my lifestyle. So it's another one that I think I only wore it a couple of times and then I just got rid of it. There's just other pinafore dress patterns out there that I think I would rather try than go back to this one because it was just way too fussy for me. The next dress is actually the one that I am wearing today, sort of. It's Simplicity 9141. And it was another total fail. Some of it was my fault. The dress was supposed to be cinched in with all these elastic channels, and I thought that that just seemed annoyingly complicated, so I tried to do shirring elastic all the way around instead. But for whatever reason, I couldn't get my elastic tight enough, like it wouldn't cinch in enough. It was always a little bit too loose. So the dress looked really awful on me. I also discovered that the little tie straps were just really fussy and I didn't like them. I felt like they got in the way and they were super annoying to get the length just right on both sides. So I didn't like that aspect either. So I ended up taking the bodice off of the dress and then just turning the skirt part into an elastic waist skirt, which that is what I'm wearing today. Obviously, I still have that skirt in my wardrobe and I really like it, but even then, I don't need this pattern if I want to make another similar skirt because it's just rectangles. You're just gathering rectangles. I don't need a pattern for that. So that's why I would not go back to this pattern, and even though I do think that I messed up by not using the elastic and not having it cinched in enough, in my opinion, it's really not that great of a pattern, and there's other ones out there that are probably better. But I'm pretty sure this pattern is out of print now anyway, and so I wouldn't recommend the pattern. But I don't think that you'll have easy access to it anyway, but if you see it out there in the wild, I would maybe give that one a skip. Next, we have another failed birthday dress. This one was a vintage pattern, Simplicity 9682. This dress I wore exactly one time on my birthday and I never wore it again. This was another one of those combination of factors for why it was a fail for me. But the primary one was that the dress was extremely heavy. because I made it out of a viscose twill, and because it was white, I felt like I needed to line it. So I did a self-lining underneath, and that just made the dress super, super heavy. And they were held up by these teeny, 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 tiny little spaghetti straps. And so I was terrified the entire time that I was wearing it for like the 3 hours at dinner that the straps were gonna snap on me. So I just never felt secure enough to wear the dress if I was out in public. I just felt like those thin spaghetti straps were not gonna hold up. Now I held onto this dress for years, and I thought of different things that I could do to maybe shore it up and make it more secure. I thought about adding an additional strap so that it would be like double straps. I thought about shortening the dress because that would take off some of the weight. But also, this was before I was doing muslins, and so it was a little bit big on me in the chest. And it, again, with the saltwater slip, it has that low scooped neckline that I just feel like doesn't really do anything for me. So the combination of all those things, and I have other white dresses in my closet that I like better, I decided to finally just let this one go. I did hold on to it, like I said, for years, thinking that I would do something to make it more wearable. But in the end, I decided it just wasn't really worth the time, and that I wasn't gonna like it no matter what I did to it. I need to get better about trying to think through that before I make alterations, because these videos are making me realize that there's several times where I did something to alter the dress to try to make it better, and then I still end up not liking it. So it's better for me to take the time and think, is this something where if I change it, I'm actually gonna wear it more, or is it just gonna sit there in the closet? So I think ultimately I made the right decision about this dress, that no matter what I did to it, I probably wasn't gonna like it, and just letting it go was the better option. All right, we're on to the last failed birthday dress. This was actually the same birthday as the white one. I think we had like a weekend plan, so I had a couple different dresses that I had made. This one is the Vicky So's Milana. I only wore it the one time on my birthday, and I'm actually not unhappy with it. I think that it was good for the occasion. I thought it was really cute. Even though it's ruffly, and I normally don't like ruffles, I did like the style of it. I thought that for the occasion it was appropriate. The main thing I didn't like about this dress was the color. I would think I went through this phase where I was trying to branch out with the colors that I was wearing. And even though I've never liked orange, orange is literally my least favorite color, something just struck me, and I thought maybe I should try orange because I never wear it. And then that dress made me realize that I never wear orange because I really hate it. So the color was a big factor for me for why I never wore that dress again. But also, it just wasn't a good match for my lifestyle. For me, it was definitely an occasion dress. It was not something that I wanted to wear in my everyday life. It was a little bit fussy to put on with all of the stuff going on in the back. I couldn't wear it with a bra, and so it just wasn't the most practical dress. So I don't regret it because, like I said, I think that it was good for the occasion. If I had it to do over again, I would have picked a different color, definitely for sure. But I will happily take the L and just realize that it was fine for the occasion, but it was not something that I'm gonna wanna wear afterwards, and that maybe I should not be using my limited sewing time on a dress that I'm only going to wear once. So that was the main takeaway from that even if it is a special occasion, I should try to think a little bit harder about, can I adapt this to my normal wardrobe? And if not, maybe don't do it because it's just gonna be a waste of time. Next up, we have the Vogue 1734. This was another one that the dress looks so beautiful on so many people, but it just wasn't for me. I made it out of a crepe fabric, and I think possibly the print combined with the fact that I tried to do the flutter sleeve, I just felt very matronly in it, and I didn't like it. Like the instant that I finished the dress, I did not like the way that it looked. This is another one that I tried to fix it by taking off the bodice and turning it into a skirt, but I really didn't like the skirt either. It has a high-low hem, and I just don't like those on me. It was another instance of trying something new that didn't work out. So eventually I ended up getting rid of the skirt that I had refashioned as well. I do still think that wrap dresses are pretty, but they are a little bit on the fussy side. So it's not a style that I want to make too many of in my closet because I just don't think that I would wear it that much. But this particular pattern with the flutter sleeves, with the high-low hem, and with the fabric that I chose, it was just a wrong combination of those three things, and I never felt comfortable in that dress. Next up, we have the Wiksten Shift Dress and Top. Now, I will continue to make the top again. I don't have an issue with that particular view of it. It's just the dress that I wouldn't sew again. I think that I had made the top and I liked it, and so I wanted to make the dress just to be like a completist or something. But this was another one where I should have known better. Like I've already told you, I don't like shift dresses. I did make the tie belt thinking that I could cinch it in the waist and that it would look better, but like the Julia dress, it's a very, very simple silhouette, and I just don't like that style on me. It just isn't my taste. I also used a fabric where the colors were all wrong for me, and it was kind of fun to do some different, like playing with the direction of the stripes, but I really didn't like the way that it looked wearing it. I didn't feel comfortable in it. There are other comfortable, easy pull-on dress styles that I prefer to wear that I just think suit me a lot better than this one. So I would not go back to that pattern again, although I'm sure that I will make more of the tops because I think that they're great for PJs. So that rounds up all of the dresses and jumpsuits that I would not sew again. Please feel free to share some of your fails in the comments because I feel like we can all commiserate together. By sharing our experiences, hopefully we can learn from each other and help each other and sometimes just be there for each other and know that you're not alone, that we do all make mistakes and that doesn't make us failures as people. You just learn and you grow from your mistakes and you move on. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next video.